What if you were to colonize Mars, space program, exploring Mars? You will not only be able to imagine all of this, but also see it in this video. Welcome to the What If Lab channel. Sit back and let's begin. First, you will need to undergo training at NASA, starting with vestibular training aimed at ensuring your stability against changes in gravity and orientation. One of the key methods used is the centrifuge. You will undergo tests on it, experiencing forces of up to 9G, which is 9 times the force of gravity. This will help prepare you, as during the rocket launch, you will experience forces ranging from 3G to 4G, meaning your body will feel 3 to 4 times heavier than its normal weight. Such forces will cause changes in your circulation, affecting your brain and other organs. Training also includes the use of zero-gravity simulators, such as the multi-axis trainer, which will rotate you in different planes to help you acclimate to disorientation. Additionally, there will be water training in a large pool known as the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, which will play a crucial role in helping you adapt to zero-gravity conditions. Next comes physical training, where you will engage in strength workouts using your body weight, free weights, and machines. Cardiovascular exercises such as running, stationary biking, and using ellipticals will help improve your endurance. Psychological preparation also plays an important role in the training process. You will undergo training in stress and conflict management techniques to work effectively in confined spaces. Simulations of long-duration missions conducted in isolated environments, such as Mars Society or high seas, will help you prepare for life in a confined space for an extended period. Don't forget about training to operate equipment. You will practice on simulators, learning to work with various systems of the spacecraft, including controls, navigation, and communications. Practicing in conditions close to zero gravity will allow you to hone your skills in handling scientific equipment and conducting experiments. Unfortunately, at this moment, there is no spacecraft ready to send humans to Mars. However, to illustrate what a launch would look like, I will use NASA's Orion as an example. Let's start with the preparations for the launch. First, a comprehensive check of all systems and equipment is necessary, including engines, navigation systems, and life support systems. Next, Orion is fueled with liquid oxygen and rocket propellant, usually RP-1. A few minutes before the launch, the countdown begins. The ship's systems go into readiness mode, and you and the other astronauts take your places in the cabin. Orion is typically launched using a rocket booster, such as the Space Launch System, SLS. A few seconds before launch, the SLS engines are activated, creating a powerful flow of gas that propels the rocket upward. In the first phase of the flight, the SLS rocket uses its first stage. After the fuel is depleted, the first stage separates from Orion, reducing weight and allowing it to reach speeds of around 28,000 kilometers per hour. After activating the second stage, Orion accelerates to about 33,000 kilometers per hour, allowing the spacecraft to enter a low Earth orbit. Once the required altitude and speed are reached, Orion separates from the rocket booster and enters Earth orbit, after which it will set course for Mars. You and the other astronauts will spend time in microgravity, where you can conduct scientific experiments and interact with the equipment. You must also be prepared to troubleshoot any issues outside the spacecraft. For this, you will wear a white suit that reflects sunlight and protects against overheating. However, in outer space, there is a vacuum that makes it difficult to dissipate heat from the human body. Without an effective cooling system, you could overheat inside the suit, as you emit about 150 watts at rest and 300 watts during active work. Therefore, the suits include special tubes that circulate cold water, allowing for temperature regulation inside. When landing on Mars, you will encounter the challenges of low gravity. The gravity on Mars is approximately 0.38 g. For comparison, the gravity on the Moon is about 0.16 g. This weak gravitational pull makes it impossible to retain an atmosphere on the planet, and any attempts to create an artificial atmosphere would be futile, as the planet cannot hold gases on its surface. This poses serious challenges for colonization, as you and the other astronauts are exposed to solar radiation. On Earth, our atmosphere protects us from solar radiation, and if compressed, it would be equivalent to a density of 6 meters of soil. Therefore, to protect against solar radiation on Mars, you would need to burrow at least 6 meters deep to create underground stations that can provide safe living conditions. Fortunately, ice reserves have been discovered beneath the surface of Mars. This finding provides the opportunity to extract water, which you can split into oxygen and hydrogen through electrolysis. The resulting oxygen can be used to create an artificial atmosphere within an underground air dome, ensuring the necessary conditions for breathing and living. 3 ways of time travel, proven by scientists, some of which you can check yourself right after watching this video. The first method of time travel is explained by the theory of relativity, developed by Albert Einstein in the early 20th century. This revolutionary theory asserts that time and space are not fixed quantities. Instead, they depend on the speed of the observer's movement. Einstein showed that time can stretch or compress depending on the speed at which an object is moving. One of the most vivid examples of this effect is the so-called twin paradox. Imagine we have 2 twins. One stays on Earth while the other goes on a space journey aboard a ship traveling at a speed close to the speed of light. When the space twin returns to Earth, he finds that he is significantly younger than his brother. This happens because time for him passed more slowly than for the twin who stayed on Earth. To understand this effect, let's recall the formula that describes time dilation. This formula shows that as the speed approaches the speed of light, time slows down for the moving object. This time dilation has been confirmed by many experiments, including observations of elementary particles moving at high speeds and atomic clocks that have been sent into space. Thus, if we could reach speeds close to the speed of light, theoretically, we could travel into the future, as time for us would pass more slowly compared to those who remained on Earth. If you want to embark on a time travel journey, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comment. Then I will create a time machine and invite you to join me on the journey. The second method is gravity, which affects the flow of time. This phenomenon is described by the general theory of relativity, also developed by Albert Einstein. According to this theory, gravity is not just a force, as we tend to think. Instead, it represents a curvature of space-time caused by the presence of mass. To understand this, imagine a stretched rubber band. If you place a heavy object on it, the rubber band will bend. This bending is analogous to how mass curves space-time around it. The greater the mass of the object, the stronger this curvature. According to the general theory of relativity, time flows more slowly near massive objects. This is called gravitational time dilation. Formally, this can be expressed using the equation. This equation shows that the closer you are to a massive object, the greater the influence of gravity on the flow of time. Let's consider a practical example. Clocks on GPS satellites are located at an altitude of about 20,200 kilometers above Earth. Due to the weaker gravitational field at this height, time for these clocks flows faster than for clocks on Earth. If we did not account for this difference, the errors in determining location could amount to up to 10 kilometers per day. The third method is light, which can serve as a kind of time machine and allow us to travel to the past. When we look at stars, we are not just seeing their current light, we are actually observing how they looked in the past. This is because light from distant objects can travel for millions or billions of years before reaching our eyes. If we look at a star that is, say, 100 light years away, we see it as it was 100 years ago. It's like looking into the past. For example, the light from a star that exploded in a supernova 50 years ago has only just now reached Earth. We will observe this event as if it is happening right now. This concept is also supported by observations. Astronomers use telescopes to study distant galaxies and stars, and they often find that many of these objects exist in a state different from what we see. Thus, light becomes our window to the past, allowing the naked eye to witness events that occurred long before humans existed. Since you've watched the video up to this point, I will show you a few bonus methods. One of the most well-known concepts is wormholes, also known as Einstein-Rosen bridges. A wormhole is a hypothetical tunnel that connects two different points in space-time. If such a structure actually exists, it could allow a traveler to move between two distant points in the universe in a short time, bypassing ordinary distances. There are several equations that describe wormholes. One of them, Einstein's equation, looks like this. The problem with wormholes is that their stability requires exotic matter with negative energy, which currently remains just a theoretical concept. Another interesting aspect is closed time-like curves. These are solutions to Einstein's equations that allow travel back in time. They can appear as loops in space-time and theoretically allow one to bypass time. However, the existence of such curves is also associated with paradoxes, such as the grandfather paradox, where a time traveler accidentally prevents their own birth. There are other theoretical approaches as well, such as using rotating black holes, known as Kerr black holes. They might also create conditions for closed time-like curves, but the stability of such solutions and the possibility of their practical use remain in question. What if we could completely eradicate corruption, embezzlement, bribery, nepotism, and abuse of power? These are the issues we will strive to overcome in this video. Corruption is an evil that permeates all levels of society. It manifests in various forms, from bribery to embezzlement. People in high positions often appoint their friends and relatives to cushy jobs, a practice known as nepotism. This not only undermines trust in authority, but also harms the economy and social justice. Now, we will briefly go through the chapters to see what changes will occur when we completely eradicate corruption. First, there will be mass arrests of corrupt officials. An example of high-level corruption can be drawn from Indonesia's history, when President Suharto embezzled between 15 and 35 billion US dollars during his rule. This became a symbol of corruption, demonstrating how susceptible people in high positions can be to money. Fortunately, in our story, honest and independent judges will impose strict prison sentences and seize the movable and immovable property of all corrupt individuals, which will help replenish the state treasury. It is important to note that punishment will not only be meted out to officials, but also to those who bribe them, both ordinary criminals and billionaires evading taxes due to their connections with the power elite. After defeating corruption in the public sector, a new era begins for business and the economy. Transparent rules open up opportunities for entrepreneurs and foster the launch of new projects. Bribed tenders become a thing of the past, leading to healthy competition and supporting innovation and startups. This creates new jobs, and tax revenues from honest businesses fill the state treasury. As a result, changes in tax policy are possible, including tax reductions for small and medium-sized enterprises. An example is Georgia, where reforms from 2005 to 2011 led to reduced tax rates. The corporate tax decreased from 20% to 15%, and the tax on dividends and interest dropped from 10% to 5%. Other changes were also implemented. It is important not to forget about billionaires who sometimes evade taxes. Their accumulated wealth can contribute to inflation. If law enforcement agencies begin serious investigations, a significant portion of unpaid taxes will return to the budget, helping to reduce the inflation rate. The attraction of foreign investments increases as international companies see reliable partners in these countries. Currently, many countries in South America, Africa, and Asia are exposed to corruption risks, hindering their economic development. For example, in the 1960s, about 40% of officials in Singapore were corrupt, and the GDP was approximately $5.4 billion USD. Thanks to Lee Kuan Yew and his fight against corruption, by 2021, Singapore's GDP had grown to $340 billion, and the Corruption Perception Index improved to 5th place in the world. Thus, even the poorest countries can boost their economies and create giant corporations capable of competing with companies like Google and Amazon. This will lead to the fight against monopolies and the creation of a more balanced economic environment. In our world, there are numerous challenges that require immediate attention. One ambitious project is the greening of the Sahara Desert, which could help eradicate hunger on the African continent. Thanks to the victory over corruption, securing funding will be quite straightforward. While the exact costs for such a large-scale project can vary, preliminary estimates suggest around $100 billion. But greening is just one side of the coin. We also need to focus on energy sources. We can consider solar and wind power plants. To ensure global energy needs, we will require about 2,500 gigawatts from solar stations, which will cost approximately $2.5 trillion. Wind power plants will also require similar capacity and may cost around $3.75 trillion. Ultimately, creating a sustainable energy system will cost us about $6.25 trillion. Waste management is another crucial aspect. It is estimated that around 8,000 additional recycling plants will be needed worldwide for effective waste processing. Building them could cost approximately $40 billion. This investment will not only reduce waste, but also create new jobs. Finally, let's talk about water. Water is life. Ensuring global water supply will require costs of about $2.37 trillion. Installing purification facilities will require an additional $50 billion, while creating desalination capacities will cost around $200 billion. The total costs for water supply and purification will amount to about $2.62 trillion. If we sum up all these investments, greening, energy, waste recycling, and water purification, we arrive at an impressive total of around $11.2 trillion. These investments may seem colossal, but they are achievable in a world where corruption has been defeated and the misappropriated funds of all corrupt individuals currently at large have been confiscated. If you think this amount is unmanageable, consider that according to WHO estimates, losses in the healthcare sector due to corruption reach up to $1 trillion per year. Have you ever wondered what would happen if sex stopped being pleasurable? Overpopulation, sexual violence, reevaluation of identity, cultural changes, and acceptance of diversity. If you've read the book or watched the movie by Dan Brown, Inferno, you've probably thought about the future of the planet due to overpopulation. Statistics show that about 45% of all pregnancies in the world are unwanted. Currently, the world population is around 8.09 billion. Given these figures, one could assume that the population in 10 years would be approximately 8.9 billion, and in 50 years, around 10.9 billion. But Considering the statistics on unwanted pregnancies, the population in 10 years would be about 8.2 billion, and in 50 years, around 8.62 billion. That's a colossal difference, don't you think? These are very simplified estimates, and the real numbers may vary depending on many factors. Share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on, and I want to talk about how the disappearance of sexual pleasure could impact the level of sexual violence. Let's figure this out together. Crimes related to sexual violence account for 5 to 15% of all registered crimes. Many acts of violence are linked to aggression or a desire for control. If there's no pleasure, people might not feel the need to go to such extremes. Why would they, if it no longer brings joy? This means that some individuals may be less inclined to dominate. If sex stops being appealing, the desire to engage in aggressive actions may also diminish. If sexual needs become irrelevant, we might see people focusing on other aspects of relationships, friendship, support, and mutual help. This could lead to healthier interactions and consequently fewer conflicts. And lastly, redefining identity. Many of us associate ourselves with our sexuality. If that changes, we might see people reevaluating their roles and behaviors. This could lead to a lower likelihood of violent behavior. Those are my thoughts, friends. Of course, this is just a hypothetical scenario, and many factors influence violence. But as you can see, the absence of sexual pleasure could lead to many interesting changes in our society. Everyone has heard of a platform called OnlyFans, but not everyone knows the original idea behind its creation. OnlyFans was initially created as a platform for content creators, allowing them to share exclusive content with subscribers for a fee. Its main goals and functions included supporting creative individuals. The platform provided opportunities for artists, musicians, writers, and other creators to earn from their content. The revenue of OnlyFans is around $1.3 billion a year, but we understand that this success was not achieved thanks to writers and musicians. Returning to today's topic, such a platform as OnlyFans might revert to its original idea. But would it earn less? After all, society focuses on finding pleasure in other areas. Writers, artists, musicians, and other professions might receive more attention for their creativity. What will happen to adult films? These secret websites will have to think about their future and might even start producing funny cat videos. What would happen to apps like Tinder and other dating sites? The first thing that comes to mind is that such apps might start emphasizing the creation of deep emotional connections. People would begin to seek not only romantic relationships, but also genuine friendship and support. What about profiles? Instead of focusing on appearance and sexuality, users could share more about their hobbies, interests, and personal achievements. This would create a more complete picture of each person, but some apps may lose popularity if they don't adapt to the new realities. Users might start looking for more suitable platforms that meet their new needs. If sex stops being pleasurable, dating apps could change significantly. What do you think about that? Share in the comments. Modern society is experiencing significant cultural changes that affect perceptions of various forms of relationships, including celibacy and non-traditional connections. Let's imagine how the absence of pleasure from sex might impact the perception of such forms of relationships. The first thing I want to talk about is how attitudes towards celibacy are changing. In the past, when someone said they were not in a relationship, it might have been seen as something strange. But now, many understand that celibacy is not a sign of problems. It can be a conscious choice. More and more people are choosing to focus on their goals, hobbies, and careers, and that's perfectly fine. Considering our video topic in the future, celibacy or the absence of children in marriage may gain more popularity. Now let's move on to the diversity of relationships. Have you noticed how in recent years, more people have begun discussing polyamory, open relationships, and other alternative forms of connections? Society will begin to realize that we are not obliged to follow traditional patterns. Everyone can find their unique formula for happiness. Cultural changes and acceptance of diversity in relationships contribute to creating a more open and harmonious society. Reducing the stigma surrounding celibacy and diverse forms of relationships will allow people more freedom in choosing how to build their lives and connections. This, in turn, will lead to a deeper understanding of human relationships. You might be thinking that living in such a world could even be better than in the present. So now I want to discuss with you the negative aspects of losing pleasure that nature has given us. Let's start with the reduction of intimacy. Without pleasure from sex, the connection between partners would change significantly. The concept of infidelity might become more vague. A simple walk in the park with a colleague or a coffee chat about everyday life could lead to the conclusion that your partner is psychologically or emotionally cheating on you. Also, the absence of pleasure would reduce a person's libido to almost zero, which would stop motivating them to seek a partner, potentially leading to an increase in the number of lonely people and a decrease in stable family structures. Considering our unstable and ever-changing world, where depression and psychological problems prevail, the absence of pleasure could exacerbate everything. For many people, this enjoyable activity is the only ray of sunshine. Yes, the next generation might not even know about such pleasure because they won't experience it, and therefore it won't serve as a remedy in tough times. Let's not forget about art, as sublimation has allowed for the creation of beautiful paintings and enchanting music. And of course, in our case, the absence of sexual energy that artists, sculptors, musicians, and other creative sublimate could lead to a cultural and creative stagnation. What if we could nourish ourselves with solar energy? Could we end hunger? Improve the environment? What changes would occur in society? Feeding on sunlight is an intriguing concept that has parallels in biology, especially in the process of photosynthesis. First, let's understand how this could happen from a scientific perspective. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants, algae, and some bacteria convert solar energy into chemical energy using carbon dioxide and water. For humans to obtain energy from the sun, we would need to develop similar mechanisms. For example, our skin would need to contain chlorophyll or similar pigments to absorb sunlight. Human cells would need to have special organelles, like chloroplasts, to convert sunlight into chemical energy. A new metabolic system would be necessary to utilize solar energy and produce glucose. Since solar energy is less concentrated, people would need to convert it effectively for survival. If our skin contained chlorophyll, it might have a greenish tint because chlorophyll absorbs red and blue light while reflecting green. Now, let's imagine that our bodies function well on solar nutrition and receive enough nutrients, and let's fantasize about how our lives would change. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, in 2023, the number of people suffering from hunger ranged from 713 to 757 million, which is about 8.9 to 9.4% of the world's population. Additionally, around 2 billion people worldwide experience moderate to severe issues accessing safe and nutritious food. Every 9th child in the world faces malnutrition, which can lead to stunted growth and development, as well as long-term health consequences. The highest number of hungry people is found in Africa and South Asia. Returning to our topic, since solar energy is available to everyone, food shortages would become a thing of the past. Everyone could get the necessary nutrients without relying on agriculture. What would happen to the environment in this case? Agricultural production has a significant impact on the environment, and its consequences are often negative. New agricultural lands are often created by deforesting areas, leading to loss of biodiversity and destruction of ecosystems. According to the FAO, about 10 million hectares of forest are cut down each year, largely related to the expansion of agricultural lands. Approximately 70% of all fresh water is used for irrigation. Overuse of fertilizers and pesticides leads to pollution of groundwater and rivers, affecting millions of people. Agriculture is responsible for about 14% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, including methane and carbon dioxide, contributing to global warming. How do you think agricultural production positively or negatively impacts the environment? Write in the comments, and we'll continue. How often do you go for walks? To the forest, park, or other places away from the city's hustle and bustle and car fumes? The ability to nourish ourselves from the sun would encourage people to interact more with nature, positively affecting our physical and mental health. It would also push us to create more open spaces, green roofs, and vertical gardens, making cities more eco-friendly and pleasant to live in. Window installation companies would be happy to earn extra money, as panoramic windows would become highly sought after. In this new society, which religions might become more popular? For example, in Hinduism, many Indian deities are associated with natural elements, and there is a concept of dharma that includes caring for the environment. Buddhists strive for harmony with nature and adhere to the principle of nonviolence. Taoism, neo-paganism, and other religions also emphasize reverence and unity with nature. Solar nutrition could foster a deeper respect for the environment. People would begin to see themselves not as masters of nature, but as part of it, highlighting the importance of harmony with the world around us. Unfortunately, alongside positive changes, society would face several challenges. If people start to derive energy from sunlight, the demand for traditional food would significantly decrease. This could lead many to consume only minimal amounts of food to stay healthy, focusing on essential vitamins and minerals. In turn, reduced demand for food would negatively impact the agricultural sector. Farms and food processing businesses would see a drop in income, possibly leading to closures or downsizing. With an oversupply of products, issues would arise with storage and disposal of excess, resulting in economic losses. Did you know that according to the FAO's 2011 report titled Global Assessment of Food Loss and Waste, about 1/3 of all food produced for human consumption is lost or wasted? This is equivalent to approximately 1.3 billion tons of food per year. As demand for food decreases, many workers in the agricultural sector and food industry might lose their jobs. This would lead to rising unemployment in these areas. As a result of business closures and reduced food production, prices of remaining goods on the market could rise, leading to inflation and economic instability as people would spend more on basic products. Wealthy individuals could afford a more diverse and higher quality diet, while poorer populations would struggle to secure even basic foods, creating pronounced social inequality that could provoke social protests and unrest, presenting additional challenges for society. What will happen if people stop cutting down trees? How will the climate change? Deforestation is not only an environmental issue, but also a question of our future. Forests play a critical role in absorbing carbon. According to Global Carbon Project data, forests absorb about 2.6 billion tons of carbon each year. This helps mitigate the greenhouse gas effect that contributes to global warming. Research from the U.S. Forest Service shows that increasing forest areas can reduce air pollution levels in cities by 20 to 30%. This is crucial for public health, especially in densely populated areas where respiratory diseases are common. Additionally, forests help reduce soil erosion, retain moisture, and regulate groundwater levels. For example, in Brazil, reforestation in the Amazon basin has improved water quality and reduced sedimentation. In Haiti, where forests were nearly completely destroyed, especially after devastating earthquakes and hurricanes, restoring forest areas has led to improved soil conditions and increased agricultural production. How will our climate change? In the past, deforestation has already had a significant impact on the climate. For example, in Europe, mass deforestation led to changes in microclimates and reduced biodiversity. Forests have always been climate regulators, and their destruction has affected ecosystems. If people had recognized the importance of forests back then, we might have avoided many climate problems today. If deforestation stops, climate forecasts will be more optimistic. Forests help combat global warming, and their restoration can significantly reduce carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, creating a more stable climate and potentially helping to lower global warming by 0.51 degrees by 2100. This could prevent numerous climate disasters, such as severe floods and droughts, which are already becoming more frequent. Statistics show that about 13 million hectares of forest are cut down each year, equivalent to the size of Greece. Of these, about 1.5 million hectares are cut down illegally. This not only threatens ecosystems, but also contributes to social conflicts and economic losses. According to the UN, forests are home to 80% of terrestrial biodiversity. Each year, about 10,000 species of animals and plants disappear due to habitat destruction. For example, orangutans and tigers in Indonesia and Malaysia are threatened by the clearing of tropical forests for palm oil plantations. Stopping deforestation will lead to the return of endangered species and the maintenance of healthy populations of animals and plants. For instance, in the Kaholau National Park in Hawaii, where forest restoration is actively taking place, there has been an increase in local bird species. However, wood is used for building houses, bridges, and other structures, as well as for furniture, paper production, energy, crafts, and many other industries. There are alternatives to wood that can reduce our dependence on forests. For example, bamboo grows 3 times faster than wood and has high strength. Recycled materials, such as plastic and metal, are also used in construction. These materials are already being used in building houses and furniture. One of the most exciting developments is 3D printing houses. The use of 3D printers in construction is actively developing and allows for the creation of sustainable and affordable homes without using wood. Changes are also happening in the packaging world. Instead of traditional paper, biodegradable packaging made from cornstarch is increasingly being used. These materials decompose naturally and do not harm the environment. Now let's talk about energy. Solar panels are not just a trendy option. They are a real alternative to traditional energy sources. They help us harness clean energy from the sun, reducing dependence on fossil fuels. We should also mention wind energy. Wind turbines are becoming more efficient and capable of generating vast amounts of electricity. This is a great way to harness the power of nature for our needs. In fact, in almost every area, humanity will find alternative ways to replace something. Of course, there's no need to completely abandon wood, but we must value our nature and allocate resources wisely. Each of us should think about how we can help preserve forests. What if you sat behind the wheel of a giant machine right now? An excavator, a bulldozer, a dump truck. You will take control of all these giants in this video. Before you start operating giant machinery, let's take a look at some of the most impressive types of machines so you can familiarize yourself with the upcoming work. Excavators. These are heavy construction machines designed for digging and moving soil. They are equipped with large buckets with a capacity of about 100 m². Modern excavators can reach the height of a multi-story building and weigh up to 14,000 tons. That's how much the world's largest excavator, the bagger, weighs. It is so enormous that it can dig a pit the size of a standard soccer field and 10 meters deep in just one day. The main purpose of excavators is to dig holes, excavate soil, and prepare sites for construction. They are also used in the mining industry for extracting minerals. Bulldozers. These are powerful machines with wide blades in front, designed to move large amounts of soil or other materials. The largest serial bulldozer in the world is undoubtedly the Komatsu. It weighs 150 tons and is 12 meters long, with a standard blade width of 7.4 meters and a height of 3.6 meters. The machine's power is impressive as well. The engine delivers 1,200 horsepower. They are used in construction for leveling areas, in mining for removing topsoil, and in logging for clearing land. Dump trucks. These machines are specifically designed for work in quarries and large construction sites. The largest dump truck is the Belaze, which is nearly 10 meters wide and over 8 meters tall, equivalent to a 3-story building. Its payload capacity reaches up to 800 tons. You can find many photos online of people standing next to the giant's wheel, which has a diameter of 4 meters. The truck is equipped with 2 engines, with a total power of 4,600 horsepower and 2 fuel tanks of 2,800 liters each. They are used to transport materials over long distances. One dump truck services small quarries, as tons of waste rock must be removed to reach valuable minerals, and dump trucks are indispensable for this task. The long-awaited moment has arrived. You finally start the job you wanted to try. First, you need to put on all your personal protective equipment, such as helmets, gloves, safety goggles, and headphones. This helps minimize the risk of injury in case of emergencies. Before starting work, a thorough inspection of the machine's condition is conducted. You must ensure that all systems are functioning properly, including brakes, light signals, and hydraulic mechanisms. Monitoring systems allow you to track the machine's condition in real time, including oil levels, engine temperature, and other important parameters. On construction sites, you need to maintain effective communication between operators and other workers. You should check the functionality of the radio equipment and test how noticeable hand signals are for conveying messages to the entire team to prevent misunderstandings. Modern excavators and bulldozers are equipped with electronic control systems that allow you to manage all machine functions using joysticks and touch panels. This makes operation more intuitive and precise. Operating such machinery requires complete concentration. You must keep an eye on the surroundings, manage the working components, and consider the machine's size to avoid collisions and damage. You also need to take into account not only the machine's dimensions, but also its turning radius, height, and width to avoid obstacles. However, many modern machines are equipped with sensors and systems that help prevent collisions. These systems can alert you to nearby objects and even automatically stop the machine in critical situations. Many modern machines use GPS technology to enhance operational accuracy. You can see your actions on a screen and receive information about digging depth or the volume of material being moved. Some excavators and bulldozers are equipped with automated systems that can perform repetitive tasks, such as digging to a specific depth. This reduces the burden on you and decreases the likelihood of errors. But despite all its beauty, such work can be emotionally taxing. You may experience stress, especially in confined spaces or while performing complex tasks. For instance, in mountainous areas or under limited visibility conditions. You must be prepared for unexpected situations, such as rockfalls or changes in soil conditions. Operating a giant machine is not just a job, It is a whole process that requires high qualifications, experience, and the ability to make quick decisions. What if all people in the world rejected religion? What would happen to traditions? Would there be less terrorism? Would interest in science increase? Religion serves as the foundation for cultural traditions and plays an important role in society. To better understand how popular traditions are today, let's take a look at some of the most widespread ones. In Christianity, Easter is celebrated, marking the resurrection of Jesus with food blessings and egg hunts. For example, in Italy, people prepare cakes, and in Greece, eggs are dyed red. Christmas is celebrated in honor of Jesus' birth and includes decorating trees and exchanging gifts. In Islam, Ramadan is a month of fasting during which Muslims abstain from food and drink. Additionally, Hajj is a pilgrimage to Mecca that attracts millions of pilgrims every year, making it one of the largest gatherings of people in the world. In Hinduism, Diwali, or the Festival of Lights, symbolizes the victory of light over darkness. People decorate their homes with lights and fireworks. There is also Holi, the Festival of Colors, where people throw colored powders and water, celebrating the arrival of spring. In Buddhism, Vesak marks the birth, enlightenment, and passing of Buddha into nirvana. Buddhists gather for meditation and rituals. Puja is a worship ritual that includes offerings, prayers, and meditations. In Judaism, Passover is a holiday celebrating the exodus of the Jews from Egypt with the ritual of eating matzah. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, when Jews fast and pray for forgiveness of their sins. The disappearance of religions would lead to the loss of these and many other traditions that enrich cultural life and strengthen communities. Their absence could leave a significant gap in the cultural and social life of humanity. On the morning of September 11, 2001, New York woke up under a clear sky, unaware of the impending attacks by Al-Qaeda on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Under the leadership of Osama bin Laden, the terrorists carried out attacks that claimed about 3,000 lives. These events became some of the most tragic in the history of the United States and the world. While religious motives were present in the commission of this crime, it is important to understand that the attacks were the result of a complex of factors, including political, ideological, and religious motivations. In 2015, two terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula attacked the offices of Charlie Hebdo in France, killing 12 people over offensive cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. In 2019, Australian citizen Brenton Tarrant carried out an attack on mosques in New Zealand, resulting in the deaths of 51 people and more than 40 injuries. His actions were motivated by Islamophobia, as he stated in a manifesto he published before the attack. The group Boko Haram in Nigeria, aiming to establish an Islamic State, has carried out numerous attacks since the early 2000s, claiming more than 30,000 lives since 2009. While their actions have political objectives, they also target education and non-believers according to their extremist interpretations of Islam. Many terrorist acts have mixed motives. The aforementioned examples illustrate how religious beliefs can serve as a driving force for violence. However, it is important to understand that the majority of followers of religions do not support such actions and condemn violence. Without religion, people may begin to seek ethical systems in philosophy, scientific discoveries, or humanism. One of the main factors in the absence of religion is that people's interest in science may increase. In countries where religion contradicts scientific achievements, such as in matters of evolution, the disappearance of religions may accelerate the acceptance of scientific theories. In 2019, more than 70% of Americans supported the theory of evolution. Educational systems can focus on critical thinking and scientific research, leading to greater innovation. However, without religious explanations, many people may experience an existential crisis. In addition, religion provides people with moral guidelines, shaping their understanding of good and evil, honesty and justice. Religious communities create a sense of belonging and mutual support, which can reduce feelings of loneliness and social isolation and help individuals cope with difficulties, stress, and grief by providing hope and comfort. In practice, religious teachings help inmates rethink their actions and make more positive decisions, contributing to a change in their behavior for the better. Rehabilitation programs based on religious principles can assist individuals with various addictions, such as alcohol or drugs, in changing their behavior and breaking harmful habits. What if you become the President of the United States? Geopolitics, commanding the military, governing the country. You will not only be able to imagine all of this, but also see it within the framework of this video. Before you take on the management of the state, let's look at the main rights and responsibilities of the president. But first, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and give a thumbs up. Then I will vote for you in the next presidential election in the USA. According to Article 2 of the Constitution, the President of the United States is the head of the executive branch and is responsible for enforcing federal laws as well as managing executive agencies. He is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Article 2, Section 2, which gives him the authority to make decisions regarding military actions, although only Congress can declare war. The President manages the country's foreign policy, appoints ambassadors, and negotiates with other countries, Article 2, Section 2. He also signs international treaties, but Senate approval is required for their ratification. As part of his legislative powers, the President can veto bills passed by Congress, Article 1, Section 7, and convene Congress for special sessions. Additionally, the President appoints federal judges, cabinet members, and other high-ranking officials, which requires Senate confirmation. He has the authority to grant pardons and reprieves for federal offenses, Article 2, Section 2, and is required to present the State of the Union address to Congress annually, Article 2, Section 3, which reports on the state of the country and includes legislative proposals. Thus, the President of the United States possesses significant powers and responsibilities, forming the foundation for the functioning of the executive branch and influencing the political life of the country. Now you should familiarize yourself with the average day of the President of the United States. Morning, the start of the day. As president, you start your day early, likely at 6 o'clock a.m. The first thing you do is read the daily intelligence briefing and updates on important issues prepared by your aides. This helps you stay informed about events both domestically and internationally. Breakfast and meetings. After the morning news, you move on to breakfast, often with close advisors. Important discussions about current affairs and upcoming events take place during breakfast. Following this, you hold morning meetings with cabinet members to discuss key policy issues. Working hours, meetings, and events. The President's day is filled with meetings with various delegations, Congress members, and foreign leaders. You might sign legislation, hold press conferences, and participate in events promoting your initiatives. Often, the President delivers speeches to the public or at events related to important social issues, which you will also do. Evening, reviewing the day. In the evening, you spend time reflecting on the day's outcomes. You may review reports from your aides and prepare for the next day. Sometimes in the evening, you will participate in official events or meetings with family members. Night, reflection and rest. Before bed, instead of watching YouTube, you need to reflect on the day and analyze the decisions made. If the day went well and without incidents, you might set aside some time to watch the What If Lab channel. Don't forget about the problems you will encounter. Underdeveloped oratory skills. The ability to communicate effectively with the public and other leaders is a fundamental skill for a president. Without it, you may struggle to convey your ideas and decisions. Every word you say carries weight in international politics, and being inexperienced, you might accidentally make an inappropriate comment, leading to a diplomatic crisis. Lack of legal knowledge. The president faces numerous laws and regulations, and a lack of legal understanding can lead to erroneous decisions. For example, if you sign an executive order that violates or contradicts the Constitution and federal laws, it will negatively impact your reputation both domestically and internationally. Weak character and will. A leader lacking a strong character may become a victim of manipulation and pressure from other countries. For instance, if you cannot stand up to the demands of a stronger, more charismatic, and self-assured leader, it could lead to signing unfavorable agreements that harm national interests. Misunderstanding domestic politics and economics. Without deep knowledge in this area, you may not realize the consequences of your decisions. Your mistakes can cause panic in financial markets, leading to mass sell-offs on the stock exchange or even a decline in the national currency. For example, when Barack Obama took office, he faced a global financial crisis that required a swift and decisive response. Newcomers may find it difficult to adapt to such a dynamic environment. What if we could exchange bodies? Is this a possible future or a possibility from a parallel world? Social relationships, medicine, entertainment, safety, and other changes that you will see in this video. The first thing we should explore is how it might theoretically be possible to swap bodies. I propose a few options. The first option involves the use of neural interfaces that can read and transmit brain activity. With such devices, it could theoretically be possible to transfer one person's consciousness into another person's body. The next option is magical and fantastical methods, magic wands, enchanted amulets, mirrors, and many other objects that, without any explanation, could bring about the desired result. However, in my opinion, considering magical methods doesn't fit the theme of this video. Lastly, there's the surgical method, which would involve detaching part of a body and attaching it to another person. For example, swapping the heads of two different people or transferring their brains. However, the surgical method carries enormous risks, starting from the detachment process and ending with the possibility that the organ or body part could be rejected by the host's body. Therefore, we will focus on neural interfaces, which could theoretically allow for a painless transfer of consciousness into another body. I would be glad if you could share your thoughts in the comments. One of the significant changes will be in social and personal relationships. We will better understand each other by experiencing others' emotions and physical sensations. This will lead us to a higher level of compassion and empathy, as a person can literally feel what it means to be someone else. The possibility of temporary body exchange could strengthen family and friendship ties. Body swapping might improve our romantic relationships, allowing partners to better understand each other and experience one another's lives. This would lead to deeper emotional connections. However, body swapping could also introduce new relationship issues related to trust and fidelity. Partners would need to learn to trust each other on a new level. Additionally, the ability to exchange bodies might help eliminate prejudices and discrimination, as we would gain a better understanding of what it's like to live in someone else's body, including different skin colors, genders, ages, and other characteristics. Social programs and initiatives could utilize body swapping to foster integration and social adaptation for people from different cultures and social backgrounds. We should also consider individuals who feel misplaced in their bodies. Gender reassignment surgeries might become unnecessary since one could swap bodies with a person of the opposite gender. This could contribute to creating a more harmonious society. The concept of personal space and privacy would change. New social norms would emerge to regulate when and how body exchanges can occur to protect personal data and boundaries. Significant changes will occur in medicine and health. The ability to transfer consciousness into another body could be used to treat severely ill patients. For example, a person with severe injuries or chronic illnesses could temporarily live in a robotic body while their own body heals and recovers. This transfer could also aid in treating mental health issues such as depression or post-traumatic stress disorder. Experiencing a new physical state and sensations could stimulate positive changes in mental health. We shouldn't forget about new professions. Overweight individuals could temporarily swap bodies with trainers who maintain a healthy lifestyle and exercise regularly. At the same time, changes will occur in entertainment and leisure activities. Scripts and plots involving body swapping will become a popular theme in theater and cinema. Stories about how people exchange bodies and what they experience will attract audiences. Video games will particularly thrive. We could temporarily upload our consciousness into a virtual world and fully immerse ourselves in our favorite characters. Characters like Geralt, Kratos, Shepard, Lara Croft, and Peter Parker will no longer just be figures you view and control from a screen. You will truly become them. Equally important changes will occur in law and security. Governments will develop and implement laws regulating the process of body swapping. These laws will outline the rules and conditions under which exchanges can take place, as well as the rights and responsibilities of the participants. Licenses and certifications will be introduced for organizations and specialists conducting body swaps. This will help ensure the safety and legality of the process and prevent fraud and illegal operations. Specialized agencies will be created to oversee and monitor body exchanges. These agencies will ensure compliance with laws and regulations. Police and other law enforcement agencies will employ special methods to investigate crimes related to body swapping. For example, technologies will be developed to track the movements and actions of individuals who have swapped bodies. Measures will be implemented to protect against abuses, such as kidnapping or the illegal use of other people's bodies. This may include strict penalties for such crimes and special programs to protect victims. What if the Earth were flat? Would space travel be possible? A journey to the edge of the Earth? Would our perception of time change? First, we need to understand how the flat Earth is described in our time, as we will base our discussion on this theory. Some people believe that the Earth is a flat disk surrounded by a wall of ice, serving as a barrier for the ocean. They think that the sun and the moon rotate around the flat Earth. Proponents of this theory often describe them as smaller and closer objects. Based on this information, we will create a model of the Earth and imagine what our world would be like. All of the Earth's territory would be illuminated when the sun was perpendicular to its surface. Similarly, night would fall over the entire planet when the sun set over the edge of the Earth. This would significantly affect communication between countries, as the number of time zones would be reduced, allowing all inhabitants to sleep around the same time. Currently, there are 24 time zones in the world, and different points on Earth have their own times. For example, when it is Monday at 11 a.m. in New York, it is already Tuesday at 1 a.m. in Tokyo. This creates certain difficulties in communication between people from different countries. Such a simplification of time zones could facilitate interaction and coordination between countries and ordinary citizens. Even the flights of our familiar air routes would be easier for our bodies, as we wouldn't have to spend the first few days adjusting to a new time zone. If the Earth were flat, journeys to the edge of the Earth would become popular worldwide. People would first travel to remote corners by plane, and then, upon arriving at special centers, they would change into winter clothing, as glaciers would be located at the edges of the Earth. Travelers would arrive at the very edge dressed warmly and marvel at the breathtaking view before them, gazing at the seemingly endless drop. Some brave souls would descend by ropes to see what lies beneath them. Unfortunately, proponents of the flat Earth theory do not explain what exists beneath the glaciers or the Earth's crust. Share your ideas in the comments about what might be under the Earth if it were flat. If the Earth were flat, our concepts of space and space travel would be completely different. We would envision space as a vast dome rising above a flat surface. The sun and moon, rotating above this dome, would create an illusion of proximity and accessibility of celestial bodies, altering our perception of the universe. Astronomers and researchers would strive to understand what lies beyond the visible dome, believing that life ends there. They would embark on expeditions to reach the boundaries of the sky, but unfortunately, the flat Earth theory does not describe what exists beyond the dome, leaving us to speculate. Inside a flat Earth, instead of a liquid or solid core, there could be various layers composed of different materials. These layers might consist of a combination of rock, metals, and other elements, but they would not have the high temperature and pressure characteristic of our planet's core. This could lead to differences in geological processes, such as volcanism and earthquakes, which are associated with the movement of tectonic plates. The absence of a core, as we know it, could significantly impact the planet's magnetic field. In our reality, the magnetic field protects the Earth from solar wind and radiation, playing an important role in sustaining life on the planet. On a flat Earth, where the magnetic field could be either weak or completely absent, life might be under threat. Additionally, the structure of a flat Earth could affect climate conditions. The absence of a core would mean that the heat emanating from the center of the planet could not regulate temperatures on the surface. This could result in more drastic climate changes, creating extreme conditions in some regions and leading to challenges in agriculture and ecosystems. And now we have reached the end of the video. I hope you found this science fiction video interesting. Share in the comments what else might exist on Earth if it were flat. I won't say goodbye. See you next time.